They'll have somebody cook bread or bake cookies before somebody comes by to visit the house, because that will trigger emotions from their childhood, hopefully good emotions. And that's what it does. And they do research with in the malls with the cinnamon roll companies, that they make sure about 25 or 50 feet out that you start smelling it, because that triggers. I mean, if you smell fresh cut grass or pool chlorine, it'll automatically associate something many times that happened many, many years ago. Next law of involvement. Involve your prospect's senses, grab their attention, and create action. Your greatest enemy to get your call to action as master persuaders is indifference. Indifference will kill you. So you need to create participation, create action, and have them participate in the process and take ownership of the problem and create the right atmosphere for persuasion, getting them involved. I'll show you how to do that. Psychologist Kurt04 did a study during World War II. During that time, they were trying to get more households to eat more intestinal meat. You can tell by your faces that's something that we probably would have a hard time today too, but that's what they wanted to do. And so they brought in one group of housewives to convince them, to persuade them to use intestinal meats. So they brought them in and they had testimonials and they had recipes and they all tried it. They had a big rah-rah session. They were all excited. And then they went back later to see how many people actually used intestinal meats. 3%. Then they did a different thing. They brought them in, they sat them down on a table and said, look, we need the houses in America to eat more intestinal meats. How should we solve it? What should we do? Just that simple. They started talking about it. They persuaded themselves. Something as simple as, what would you like me to do? How would you solve this? They persuade themselves. 33% of those ladies started using intestinal meats. I mean, think about it. What if you charge $50 for a test drive? You have to get people involved with your products, get them mentally thinking about it. Pet stores, they're famous for this. You walk in, you're the dad, you're like, no, I shouldn't be here, and your kids are just excited and they're happy. And the pet store owner sees you and says, and they shoot this dog, and you say, no way am I having a dog. The store owner puts his arm around you and says, look, just take it home for the weekend. If you don't like it, bring it back. Does that dog ever come back? That dog never comes back. Getting people involved, and that's part of the guarantee. You need to have an irresistible guarantee that it's a no-brainer for people to take that product into their house. Because once you get that in their possession, in their hands, statistically speaking, you're not going to get it back. So have an irresistible guarantee, get it in their product, get the product in their hands, get them involved. And use stories. Whether you're speaking, you're marketing, or you're writing, stories bypass our logical mind. People automatically listen to you, and they love stories, and they can hit the point home, so use plenty of stories. The next is the law of esteem. Acceptance, recognition, and praise is one of our deepest cravings. Even simple as flirting increases your ability to persuade. Because we're starting now, esteem is how much you like yourself. And if you can help someone like themselves more, your ability to persuade increases tenfold. And that could be compliments, praise, and recognition. They also affect our esteem. Let me show you how that works. There have been a lot of studies on esteem. They found that 80% of third graders have high self-esteem. So by the time they get to high school, only 5% of them do. I don't have time to go into psychology, what's happening here, but self-esteem is at an all-time low, and we're craving to feel better about ourselves, a compliment, anything to feel part of the team. We want it more than anything. And they've done a lot of studies on just plain ingradation, which is flattery, or as the real world calls it, brown-nosing or sucking up. But they interviewed supervisors that had employees that were always there, sucking up, brown-nosing, and they rated those employees as more competent, more motivated, and more qualified for leadership position. Now, you want to keep your ingradation sincere and genuine, but the research shows even when we know it's fake and insincere, we still like it. It still works. And so you need to put that into your marketing. Napoleon changed the war effort when he realized that men would die for a blue ribbon. Men would sacrifice their lives for little praise, recognition, and honor. And at Hollins College, there was an interesting study where they had the male students go around and compliment the female students on wearing blue, which in the next couple of weeks dramatically increased the female students wearing blue. Then they changed it to red, and it actually doubled the amount of students wearing red on campus. Law of balance. The last law, persuasive messages need to appeal to both the emotional and logical side of the brain, the twin engines of persuasion. You need to have balance. You need to have both. And as master persuaders, you need to realize when you create a call to action, What is your audience? Who are the demographics? Are they more emotional or are they more logical? Again, you always have to have both. Obviously, a group of engineers, you're going to have a lot more logic than emotion, but always make sure that you do have both. And find that balance. And of course, logic is long-term and emotional is short-term. Now, for the logical side, the best type of research to use is statistics, examples, and expert testimony. And the evidence on research shows when you say evidence is a fact, it dramatically increases your persuasibility. And if you're starting off with low credibility, if they don't know who you are, if you're sending them a direct mail piece, you need to use a lot more logic. If they know who you are and what you represent, you can use a lot more emotion. So emotions add strength, energy, and validity to your message. You want to use plenty of emotion, but you just need to keep that balance and find that balance with your target audience. And pride, fear, worry, and pity are some great emotions that create triggers, that create a call to action. Now, when you look at the 12 laws of persuasion, the foundation for all those, of course, is trust. Getting that call to action is going to come from trust. Do people believe you? Do they trust you? I want to talk about the 5 C's of trust, which is the foundation of everything we do. Bottom line, we already know if people don't trust you, they're not going to do business with you. And so where does trust come from? Let me give you those 5 C's. The first is character, that integrity, that honesty. That's what most people think about trust. The second is competence, your knowledge and your ability. Now, let me just paint this picture with an example. Let's say you move into a new town and you want to go see a dentist and you don't know who to see. So you talk to your neighbor, he says, I need to know a dentist. Can you recommend a dentist? And he says, sure, I know a dentist. Great character. Belongs to my church group. I've known him my whole life, but he's not very competent. Last time I was there, he stuck a needle through my cheek and put the filling in the wrong tooth. Okay? Would you go to that dentist? No. Right? Okay, no, I know another dentist. Very competent, graduated top of his class. He's the best in the city. There's no doubt about it. Just doesn't have much character. He tends to overbill and tends to put in more fillings than he needs to. Would you go to that dentist? Absolutely not. The third is confidence, conviction, and belief. If you're sitting in that dentist office and he comes in with a furrowed brow and he puts the x-ray in, he says, you know, I think you need a root canal. I'm not sure. What do you think? Okay, red flag. Okay, there's not going to be a lot of trust. Okay? Next is credibility, history, and experience. That would be the diplomas on the wall and, of course, your experience with that dentist. And that's how you get it to work. What is the history? So you're sitting in the chair. He says, you know, 6 months from now, we're going to have to do a root canal on that tooth. Okay, I can wait 6 months. So you come back 6 months later and you ask the dentist, what about that root canal? He says, what root canal? You don't need a root canal. Who told you you needed a root canal? Okay, credibility is shot, not going to happen. And the 5th C is congruence, that consistency and that harmony. If he's talking about the root canals that you need, he's kind of smirking and making faces, and his facial features aren't congruent with what he's actually telling you, you will also lose the trust that you have. And so you need to have the 5 C's of trust in your message, in your persuasion, and in your writing. So some keys to create your call of action. You need to create these tools and look at these laws and make them part of you, understand them, and use them. And some of the ones that you want to take a look at, use multiple laws. Use as many laws as you can. Understand your audience. Again, these laws work, but you have to understand your audience and how to use them in the right way. I spent a lot of time talking about the actual science, and the art takes additional time to develop. Contrast, dissonance, and scarcity are probably the top 3 laws that you want to include in everything that you do. Develop unshakable trust. Okay, people will trust you. That's a great thing about this industry. When people like your products and love what you do, when you have that trust, when you send and tell them, and you call them and you tell them you have a new product, doesn't matter how much it costs, what it is, they're going to buy it. And those are the type of customers that you want, that you can get long term. Create irresistible offers with guarantees that get people involved. Understand how long-term influence works, and identify and solve their problems. Critical to create that call of action. Get people to act. Again, it's natural human behavior for them not to make a decision. And